Hello and welcome to another episode of Cafe Biblos. Hey, I still got my folder up from last week. Let me get rid of that. I don't need it. Oh my goodness. I still got my cup. What do you got your cup?
What? It's a new trend I'm starting. A container and a cup. A container and a cup.
Very good.
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome to Cafe Biblos. We've got all that out of the way. We left you with a question last week. How long can the average person go without food?
Apparently it's longer than 5 hours.
Yeah, Eric said 5 hours. I've actually gone a little longer when I was hospitalized and it didn't bother me. Didn't know that chicken broth could be so good after several days.
Well, the longest I went 7 days with no food. And not because I fasted, it's because I had a ruptured appendix and yeah, that doesn't make you hungry. So yeah, 7 days no food. Let's just say that first piece of chicken I had after 7 days was the best meal I've ever had in my entire life.
Well, it probably beats bologna. But anyway, so how long can the average person go without food? Well, what did you find out?
Let's see here. According to our research,
No, that's the Oracle.
according to the Oracle, multiple factors affect how long a person can go without food. So we're going to take some variables like age, gender, body size. So you take a 30-year-old male with a muscular body size, excellent fitness, good general health, and a very active person, typically a well-nourished male weighing 154 pounds, technically has enough calories to survive between 1 and 3 months. Now we used these factors because we're trying to compare it to like to Jesus, who was a carpenter, and he did hard physical labor. So yeah, 1 to 3 months. I don't know if I can do that.
No, no. Not without a tube feeding.
Yeah, right.
Without food, the body starts to use its own tissues as food. And don't get the idea that's the way to go on a diet, because that is definitely not the healthiest way to do it, because everything gets messed up, including your electrolytes, which govern heart function, brain function, soft, smooth muscle function, etc. But it can only do it for so long. So your body can digest the calories and the fat and everything that's stored for so long. The body needs essential fuel to renew cells and for bodily processes. So we need protein, carbohydrates, fats, and vitamins and minerals and a bunch of other things that are in the environment that God has put for us to use. So what are the effects of going without food for a prolonged period of time? Well, the first one is hunger pangs. How many of you out there have had hunger pangs? I mean, hunger pangs. And how many of you out there missed your lunch and your attitude kind of changed? What do they call that?
Hangry.
Hangry.
That's
And
when
then
you
when
grab-
you eat,
That's when you grab a Snickers bar.
yeah,
You're hangry.
that doesn't help. That doesn't help. The sugar doesn't hit very, very quick because you're still wanting something. And then there's bloating. This is for a prolonged period of time. Nausea. And for people who don't go without food for a long time, sometimes if they eat a full meal, they'll get nauseated. They'll throw it up. The stomach can't tolerate it. So you have to go smooth bits. What about you? What did you have when you was when you had your appendix and you didn't eat for 7 days?
Well,
They didn't start you off with steak and chicken.
No, I was mad because even though I was hungry, I can only eat a little bit at a time. So first they started me off on liquids. So they gave me some sherbet, Jello,
Yep.
and then they moved me slowly. And I'm just like, I'm hungry now, and I take 2 bites of my first meal, and I'm like, whew, that was a good meal.
Yeah. That's like, for those of you who've had to undergo a colonoscopy procedure, of course you're fasting, and it's almost 24 hours. You can't have anything to eat, and your GI system is cleaned out. And after the procedure, they tell you to eat a light lunch. Not this guy. Nope. I went Chinese. But anyway, not only with going so long without food, not only nausea, but sleep disturbances, because the brain is having some difficulties functioning, concentration problems, muscle weakness, sensitivity to temperature, especially to cold. If it continues, hallucinations. Think about the guys that are stranded in the desert. They think they see mirages. Convulsions, and they say after about 45 days, death. The one thing that we have to keep in mind is, though, in our previous episode, we talked about Moses being on Mount Sinai for 40 days without food and water. God had something to do with that. So what's the application to the lesson? In Mark chapter 1, verse 12, we see where Jesus was in the desert and he was fasting for 40 days. Okay, so even though he is fully divine and fully human, we have to understand that his physical body was at its weakest point from not eating. He continually communed with his Father during this period of time. But being physically drained, he was hungry, he was tired, and he was physically weak. Scriptures don't say how much weight he lost during that time, but again, he was still full of the Spirit. Jesus had quoted something later on in his ministry, in the last few hours of his ministry, when he was talking to Peter, James, and John in the garden. They were supposed to keep watch. Jesus said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So what we have here is a war of flesh and spirit. And that's a war that you and I and Eric, as Christians, we're under that influence all the time. It's a war. It's a battle. And so our spirit knows what it's supposed to do, but our flesh knows what it wants to do. And Paul talked about this in Romans chapter 7, I believe. This is where Satan was relentless with Jesus. When he was weak, he's tired, and he's worn out. He offered him things that would satisfy his natural nature. So we go to Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11.
Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he then became hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Jesus said to him, On the other hand, it is written, You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, All these things I will give you, if you fall down and worship me. Then Jesus said to him, Go, Satan, for it is written, You shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and began to minister to him.
So here Jesus was strengthened, but he withstood the temptations. Satan offered him promises that were alternatives to his Father's plan, and he offered him things that would satisfy his natural desires. He's hungry. Really, really hungry. We have a question. Another question. As we wrap up this episode, when do you feel like you are being most tempted? We'll explore that in our next episode. Again, thank you for watching. And again, we invite your comments. Read your Bible. Have a good day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.